welcome to the Life in Journal podcast. My name is Nick.
Ian.
So apparently Ian has turned into fucking Eeyore.
Yes, I have.
Going to a party. What's going on, man?
Not much.
It's been like 2 weeks since I've seen you.
No, it's been like 4 days.
Has it really?
I saw you at work the other day.
You know, I don't know. I worked this I worked 5 days in a row, which doesn't sound like a lot to normal people, but
Right.
in the hospital world, that's
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's 5 12-hour shifts. It's a lot of work in a couple of days, and so it feels like I don't know. I don't remember like half of those days. It seems like so.
Yeah.
I don't even remember seeing you.
Let's see. It was. Yeah, there wasn't Wednesday night. It would have been Tuesday night. Tuesday to Wednesday.
Tuesday. That seems like a long time ago.
It really wasn't. It was 3 days ago, actually.
Oh,
But
did I see you for like a long time?
Well, we chatted on Skype because you were in one section, I was in another.
Oh,
but
gotcha. Yeah.
You did when you went on your break. You came over because I was in Maine. So you came and chatted with us. It was me and
that's right.
it was
Somebody.
over. Yeah, I was over.
See, you don't even remember.
I was over with Nikki, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I do remember walking over there. So what's going on, man? Nothing.
Same old, same old. I haven't killed myself yet, so I guess that's a plus.
Speaking of killing yourself, so Mandy and I took the kids to Cedar Point yesterday. So I was like, that was like a segue into killing ourselves with COVID.
Well,
because what?
No, I'm just agreeing with you.
Oh, because the state of Ohio seems to not have a lot of restrictions when it comes to like bars and restaurants and things like that, and stores.
Well, their numbers are going up faster than ours too.
They are. They definitely are. So we originally we were kind of leery about going to Cedar Point because I guess like the first couple of weeks that they were open, it was only open to like season pass holders, and then they kind of opened it up to the general public. And then it was originally it was only by like appointment only, and so we kind of like scheduled it. We scheduled a date. I think last week we were gonna go, and then we weren't able to go because Jack had his last day of driver's ed that day. Mm-hmm. So, and then like right around that same time, it kind of came out that like some employees at Cedar Point had tested positive. So we were like, so we spent like a whole week like trying to figure out one way or another whether we should go or not.
Right.
And ultimately we decided, okay, we'll just go. We'll just take a bunch of masks, take extra masks with us. And, I had a bottle of hand sanitizer I took with me, and Jack had some he took with him, even though his exploded in his pocket on one of the rides.
Nice.
Actually, I think it was, so when we got into the park, that we rode the Raptor first.
Right, because you usually do.
And I'm pretty sure it was on that ride that it exploded in his pocket. So he didn't even have hand sanitizer.
But you said there were a lot of stations around.
So yeah, it was. If you're listening to this and you've thought about going or it's in your plans for the summer, I can definitely say that I had no issues being there, and I'm super paranoid when it comes to cleanliness and everything, especially working in the hospital, working in the emergency department. You almost have to be because. There's not a day that goes by that I probably don't come in contact with somebody who has COVID-19.
Right. Or something else. I mean, even before this, we're still we're on the front line of everything.
I will say that prior to COVID, though, I was like the Wild Wild West guy. I never cleaned anything.
Right.
If I touched your ID or something like that or touched a patient, I would always obviously use hand sanitizer and things like that. But I wasn't like super crazy about the things I touch. I am super crazy about the things I touch now.
Right.
Like I've taught Mandy and the kids whenever you go out in public, you always keep one clean hand and things like that. And everyone always has hand sanitizer on them. And
I can't seem to get it right. I go into the store and I can't remember. Am I supposed to sanitize or lick? Lick the handles of the carts or sanitize my hands. I keep forgetting which one I'm supposed to do.
You're a dumbass.
So I do both. I mean, I figure if I'm gonna,
so just lick your hand.
Well, I've done that too. You touch the handles and then you lick your hand just to,
I thought you normally lick your hand after you're done playing with yourself, but.
Well, I mean, that's at home. I'm not worried about that. I don't play with myself in the grocery store, Nick. Anymore.
Some people do.
Anymore.
Jesus.
Somebody told me that was a bad thing to do. I was like,
Well,
okay, fine. I won't
I
do
was
it
always told
anymore.
it makes you go blind, but I'm just saying.
I can't see you.
What? Ian, where'd you go? But
Jesus Christ, every time you do it.
but jeez. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, Cedar Point. They're really cautious about everything. Obviously, because I think you mentioned it before. Their livelihood kind of depends on
Staying open.
people being safe, feeling safe inside the park.
Right.
They've got security that's constantly walking around, making sure enforcing the mask rule.
Yeah.
They've got people that are walking through the lines, making sure people are spaced out correctly. They've got hand sanitizer stations everywhere. Half the seats on the rides are closed off. You can't ride them. So you're only sitting. So you're making sure you're multiple seats away from people. And they definitely took the steps. At least my paranoid self felt safe enough to be there, okay to be there. So, so I'm sure we'll probably go back again this summer because, I think it was also an added benefit that, so there for a while they were you had to schedule a day and time to enter the park.
Right.
So they kind of got rid of all that. So now you can just buy your ticket and show up because the park has been half empty.
Right.
And that's how it was yesterday when we got there. We parked, 3 or 4 rows from the entrance, walked right in, and the park wasn't busy at all at any point during the day. The 5 busiest rides you also have to get a pass for when you get to the park to ride them. So
that didn't cost extra, right?
No, that doesn't cost
just
extra.
kind of a placeholder.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's I know the last one was at 3:30 in the afternoon. I think the first one was either 10:30 or 11. And you get in line, you get your pass, and then you show up at the ride at that time. So that way you don't have, thousands of people standing in line for hours on end,
Right.
waiting to ride something. So you just kind of people do whatever they want at their time. I know Mandy and Jack. I don't ride big roller coasters, and neither does Reese. So I had Reese and Sean. We were going off doing some other stuff. So Mandy and Jack got 4 tickets to ride. I don't even remember what it was, but
one of the bigger
couple
ones.
of the bigger ones. Yeah. And they said that they waited in line less than 5 minutes on a ride that you typically would wait in line for 3 hours.
2 or 3 hours, yeah.
So that was kind of cool. I liked definitely the way that they were doing things and the cleanliness of the park. Everything was pretty clean. The rides, they were wiping down in between rides and things like that. So it was I definitely had no problem being there, and I was very hesitant about being there in the first place.
Right.
So it wasn't too bad. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's good to know because it's going to take all that kind of stuff to curb it all. If everyone wears their fucking masks,
I will say,
wherever they go, don't have to wear it in your car, and you don't have to wear it at your house. But when you're outdoors, when you're around people, wear your fucking mask for the 10, 15 minutes you're going to have to fucking wear it, and COVID will go down. It won't go away, but it will go down.
It will definitely go down. I will say that, so there for a while, I always laughed at people and made jokes. I probably made jokes on this show about people wearing masks in their cars.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore.
Because you did it?
Because I didn't do it for long, but I was like, because when you're in the hospital,
you just forget it's there. It's on for 12 hours at a time.
Well, it's on for me, it's more like 14 hours. Well, probably not 14. It's more like 13 hours that's on because I'm there for normally half an hour, 40 minutes before work.
Well, yeah, I am too, but I don't go into the hospital until like 10 minutes before I'm supposed to start.
Yeah, well, I'm normally...
Or 15 minutes before
I'm normally like in the hospital. I'm normally in the emergency department at least a half an hour before I start. So, and then I'm normally not out like super right on time. So it's normally over 12 hours I'm wearing it. So you get used to wearing the damn thing.
Yeah. Well, I go outside on my breaks. I go to my car on my lunch. I take it off when I'm in my car and stuff. When I'm outside.
I when I go out to lunch, I normally sit in the cafeteria. So
I
take it off when I eat, but then I put it back on.
Yeah, I put it back on, yeah.
So it was during the last couple of days, it was while I was working, obviously. I walked all the way out to my car, got in my car, and I pulled out on the road, and I'm just had just headed down the road. I was like, holy shit, I'm still wearing my damn mask.
Yeah,
So
I've done it too. I usually no, I've not left it on past getting out of the parking structure.
Yeah,
So.
it's
So
I
it's
guess
like-
I can't really laugh at people about it anymore. I guess it's some people you just forget you're wearing it. Now, granted, I have seen people that are wearing masks and wearing gloves while they're driving in their car. I guess I'll still make fun of those people.
Yeah, I'm still gonna make fun of the people wearing the masks in the car because I'm sorry, you don't need it in the car unless you've got other
you
people
don't.
in your
You
car
don't,
that you don't.
Unless you're like a Lyft driver,
or
carpooling
carpooling or something
like that. But outside of those limited circumstances, you're right. You don't need to have a mask on. But yeah, it's I there's another thing I did want to talk about because we were going to talk. So the topic for today, we're going to talk about COVID and not necessarily really about COVID. It's about the 2020 presidential election, but what kind of effect COVID could have on the election process or voting and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But before we talked about that, I did want to get into something. I know we talked about it a little bit before we started recording, but I had an interesting conversation today on Facebook, and I figured I'll lay it out there and see what other people think about this. And it stems off of a picture that talks about how low. First off, they call them survival rates, but no one calls it a survival rate. They never look at the people that survived. They look at the death rate.
Death rate, yeah.
So it's basically said that the death rate in the United States for COVID-19 was
less than 1%,
0.017%.
Right, which is not true.
And for the life of me, I'm looking at this picture and I'm like, well, how the hell did they come across this number? Because everything I've seen, it's in the 3 to 4% range, roughly.
Right. Well, you can just look at the total number of people who've died, which is, 140,000 now?
147,000.
147,000. And look at the number of people who've contracted.
As of the end of the day yesterday, it was 147,120 people that have died of the 1.155632 million people.
Right. So that's well over 1%. Right?
Ian, you have very poor math.
I do have poor math. It's like closer to 10%.
That's actually 3.54%.
Okay, whatever. I was in the middle. I was on either side of the middle. But anyway,
way fucking off.
Anyway, 3%. That's a more accurate number. That's the mortality rate. That's how many people are dying, which means the survival rate is 96 point whatever % of the people who've contracted.
Correct.
So what they're saying is the number is way lower because they're looking at what number? I'll let you finish.
So I what, for the life of me, I never did figure out what. So originally I thought they were looking at the death rate compared to total population in the U.S. Right. But that doesn't add up either. Actually, it doesn't. That's that would be because we got 328.2 million people in the United States.
Right.
So that would actually be like 0.000 something. It's a much smaller number than the 0.017% that they're saying in this picture that was posted.
Right.
So the way I tried to explain it was that yes. So you look at that number and you think to yourself, God, 3.5%. So you got a 96.5%. Wow, that's a big chance of surviving this, right?
Right.
But if you look at it, so I didn't talk about this, but I've talked about this with other people. A lot of people are like, well, once there's herd immunity, we'll all be safe from it. Okay, but to get to the point where herd immunity happens, you need roughly 70 to 80% of the population to get this.
Right.
Right. So if you look at that number and you think 3.5%, if 3.5% of that is a big freaking number of 70 to 80%, you're just talking, 5+ million deaths.
Right.
Which at that point, even though that 3.5%, you're like, wow, that's really small. It's a really small number. But you actually factor that into the population of the United States, it becomes a very large number. And when you talk about 5 million deaths in the United States.
When you're talking about one death, one person it's a life. It's a life ended. Not to mention the fact that if you look at it, the people who are surviving are not like, ooh, I'm better now. A lot of them are dealing with
Yeah.
scarring of their lungs. They're dealing with new cases of asthma.
Yeah.
People who were susceptible or on the road to having COPD now have COPD as a result of it. You're not getting out of this without consequences regardless.
Yeah.
So the point that the person that's posting this is trying to make is that it's all blown out of proportion.
Exactly.
It's not. It's
not. And so the argument that several other people were making, and I was just kind of scrolling through, and I found a couple I need to reply to when I'm done here. Okay. So their kind of thinking is, well, we don't know how many people are positive,
right.
And that's true. And that's why I say if you look at that 3.5%, that's probably on the high end. So even if you say 1.5%, if you say the actual death rate is 1%, let's say, of that, if everyone gets it, of 328 million people.
That's 3.2 million people. That's
exactly.
Almost 3.3 million people.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Well, 147,000 is a lot of people.
Yeah, but they say, well, there's 60,000 people that die of the flu every year.
Yeah, but we're talking months.
Yes, I know. That's what I'm trying to. That's the point I was trying to get.
It's more than double what the flu does, and it's done it in 3 months.
It's 4 months.
4 months. Yeah, that's 1/3 of the fucking year.
So the interesting thing is, we got into this kind of argument of how mortality rates are calculated, and kind of what I was saying was the same thing you were saying. To figure out a mortality rate, you take the amount of people that have died and compare that to the amount of people that are infected.
Right.
Okay. And that's where you get the 3.54%. And I think if you look at the numbers today, the numbers that came out today, that rate actually drops down to like 3.52%. But I don't have those numbers in front of me. I got yesterday's numbers in front of me. That's why I'm just kind of going off of that. So their argument was, like I said, no. You have to take the amount of people that have died and compare that to the amount of people in the country.
No.
I'm like, and I told them, I said, well, that's not how mortality rates are calculated. And their response was, well, we just have a differing opinion.
You can't have a differing opinion of numbers. Numbers are numbers.
Exactly.
And accurately defining what these numbers mean it can't be debatable.
No. And I said, well, that's not how mortality rates are. That's not how. I made another comment to another person when we were kind of arguing back and forth about it. Now, I shouldn't say arguing. It's been a relatively calm conversation. But the point I was making to this other person was because they even said, no, you're wrong. That's all they want. No, you're wrong. So I replied to him and I said, well, that's okay. I'm partially wrong because if you take something like a murder rate, you would take the amount of people that have died and compare that to general population or the specific population in a specific area over a specific amount of time.
But that's because you can't predict what a murder is.
Exactly.
There are predictable ways, and it's one specific type. Now, if you were to adjust that to just people who die from gunshot wounds, you would have to take the number of people shot rather than the population of the country. Well, so this is a more specific cause of death. Is what the point I'm making.
So yeah. When you look at a disease specific death rate or mortality rate, they're mortality rates, they're not death rates. So if you look at a disease specific mortality rate, you would look at that number of deaths compared to people infected. And I said, fine, you know what? Take COVID out of it. Let's talk about diabetes. I said, if you want to figure out the mortality rate of diabetes, what would you do? You would take the people that have died and that have
as a result of diabetes, and then compare it to those who still have it and are alive.
And I said, look, you wouldn't factor in the people that don't have diabetes because their data is irrelevant to the mortality rate.
Right.
And I said it's the same thing with COVID. You're going to take and you're going to compare that to the people that are infected, not the people that aren't infected. So it's been a very strange.
The problem is that we don't have very good education in this country when it comes to what science actually is, what the scientific method is, and it shows all over the place. In fact, it shows right up to the top. because it's obvious that certain members of the government, high-ranking members of the government, have probably never been in a science class. And if they were, they paid somebody to take the test for them.
Yeah, it's.
I don't want to say any names, Trump. But we know that he paid people to take all of his other tests for him, so he might as well have paid someone to take a science test for him.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. It's been a very interesting conversation, to say the least, and it's taken up way more of my time than it should. I was talking to Mandy about it before you came over today, and she was like, "Why do you engage with these people?" And I was like, "Well, because I feel I have to."
Right. I get to that point too. There's a lot of times I don't. Like, I'll just be like, fuck it, I can't do it. But then there's other times I'm like, nope, I can't ignore this one. You know?
Well, see, because the thing is, and for the most part, I do try to stay away from some of the craziness, because I see a lot of posts online, and when I see like the news post something, or whether it's Detroit News, I'm Live, whatever. Sometimes I'll just kind of go through and I'll skim through the comments on there, and some of them get really outrageous, but a lot of them end up turning into an argument where it gets like super personal and names are being called, and just there's nothing constructive about it.
Right.
So when I come across a conversation, or when I come across a post or something that I know is blatantly false, and I have the knowledge to back up my argument, I sometimes will be so inclined to throw my 2 cents in. But the one thing I always do is I always try to keep it as constructive as possible. Once it gets personal, once they start attacking me, I'm done with it.
Right.
I just kind of walk away from it. I won't even look at the.
I've been very lucky.
I won't look at the
post after that.
Yeah, the post.
I've been very lucky because I've had not a lot, because I don't engage in it as much as you do. But there's been a few times where I've had to just step in and, like you said, just because I'm aware of the facts, and I feel I can educate. So I'll post this long response to these other posts.
First off, there's your mistake. Your mistake is, first off, never respond with a long post.
Why?
Because people won't read it, or they won't even read the
Then
whole
what's
thing.
the point of doing it?
So that's the other thing is I try to make a point without making it like super involved.
Well,
and that's kind of where I get more into like the conversation. Like, I'll post something and I'll wait for them, even though I'll have like more stuff I want to say. I'll post something and see what they respond, and then I'll kind of tweak what else I wanted to say into a response.
Well, I was going to say, I've never had it get personal with me. I've had people delete my posts.
Oh yeah,
I've had that happen.
I've had that happen also.
But I've never had anyone like call me names, thankfully.
Yeah, I have.
Not that it would bother me, just.
No. And I mean, you can stand in front of me and call me all you want. It's not anything you want. It's not going to bother
I do.
me. Ian does, yeah. But
I'm still alive.
I will say that I can say honestly that a lot of people will say the most craziest, outlandish things online that I guarantee they would never fucking say to me in person.
Right.
And I feel, and it's not just me, I feel like a lot of people are like that. Because a lot of people, when they got that computer screen in front of them, and there's
detachment,
they're kind of detached from the argument. They're detached from the situation.
They're also they feel immune from the consequences of their statements. It's one of the downfalls of the internet age, if you ask me.
Yeah. But
they should invent a little thing. It's like a hand, and every time you say something that you shouldn't say,
it just punches you in the face.
Someone has the right on their other end to push the button and it slap you in the face. Yeah,
that's probably another thing. Is I feel like there's a lot of people in this world that just haven't been punched in the face once or twice in their life.
Yeah. That's it. I've never been punched in the face, but I've said some things to people that made them like, oh, I'm about to fucking punch you in the face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I went too far there. So I learned my lesson.
So it's the
people who've never learned that lesson.
They lack the fear of retaliation, I guess.
Well, just lack the understanding that there's sometimes consequences to your actions.
But yeah, that's interesting. It's been an interesting day because like I told Mandy, I was like last night because we got home from Cedar Point. That was the other thing. Cedar Point closes at 8:00 at night.
Right.
So we were home by like 10. because it only takes us like an hour and 40 minutes to get home.
Right.
Well, it takes me an hour and 40 minutes. It was probably closer to like an hour and a half, hour and 35 minutes. But anyway.
Yeah. Normal people, it takes about 2 hours.
No,
driving the speed limit.
No, I would say like if you're driving the speed limit, it's probably like an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay. Well, you're closer to it than I am from my house.
That's true. That's
add
true.
another 25 minutes on there, it's 2 hours.
That's
or 20 minutes. Yeah.
So, so we got home. It was probably a little after 10 last night when we got home because we walked out of the park right at 8. So, or 10 after 8, something like that. So it was, 10 between 10 and 10:30 by the time we got home. Actually, it probably was about 10:30 when we got home. So I told Mandy, I was like, well, I'm just gonna go because originally I was gonna stay up and do some work last night for the show today. Mm-hmm. And I told Mandy, I'll just get up in the morning and, toss on some records and, work on my notes and do that stuff. And, dude, I'm not shitting you. I didn't even start taking notes until 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Today was a lazy day for me, too. I think I told you. I pretty much stayed in bed all day.
I was up at 8 o'clock this morning.
Yeah. I was still awake. I work nights. Nick works afternoons. I work nights. So I got home from work yesterday.
I don't call it afternoons. I work evening.
All right, evenings, whatever.
Because afternoons,
you're in bed for about 3 to 4 hours 3 hours before I get home.
Yeah,
before I even leave work.
Because afternoons, I think like 11. So we have an 11 a to 11 p shift. Mm-hmm. I see that kind of as like
more afternoons.
More afternoons.
Then you're probably right. Yeah.
Evenings, because I work 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. So I'm working till like early in the morning.
Right.
I don't get home till about 4.
Right. I work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So I don't usually get home till about 8 in the morning, and then wind down, eat dinner, whatever.
Yeah.
So yesterday morning, I got home from work, and I probably didn't go to bed till about 11.
Yeah.
But I slept till like 9 last night. So then I was up because I slept my normal day shift, and actually slept in for what I would have slept, roughly. If I had to get up and go to work. So I was up all night, and I ended up falling asleep at 5. And I woke up at 11. And I felt like the day was gone, so I just stayed in bed.
That was one thing that always killed me about working nights is when I worked 7p to 7a, is like you said, I'd get home at like 7:45 in the morning. But I wouldn't stay up. I'd go home and go straight to bed.
Right.
But by the time there's a lot of days I'd wake up at like 3 o'clock. My kids would be coming home from school and kind of wake up, and it's like the whole freaking day is gone. Or if I was off for like a stretch, I would try to stay up till like noon, but then I'd like end up sleeping for way too freaking long. So I don't know. It was just, I don't know. It always seems like that first day off, I was like, the whole day was shot.
Mm. Well, normally it's not. I had plans to do stuff today. Like I said, I was going to get up I had my alarm set for 8, and I figured I can hit the snooze for like an hour.
Yeah.
But then I did. I hit the snooze, and I honestly, I think I consciously said no more and just turned it off.
You're like, fuck this shit.
Fucked it, yeah. And like I said, I got about 11:30, and I was like, because I was supposed to go to my dad's house at 10. I told him I'd be there at 10, or around 10. And like I said, I didn't wake up till like 11:30.
Yeah.
So, And I didn't want to go get up, get ready, go to his house, be at his house, and then have to come out here right from his house, because that's probably what would end up happening.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, you're not too far.
Yeah, I would have been driving from Woodhaven to Dundee. I mean, unless I took the back way, which would probably take about the same amount.
Shoot straight down 75 into Monroe and then come across to Dundee. It's not that.
Yeah, well,
it's 40 minutes.
Yeah, I guess it would.
You're about 40 minutes from Woodhaven from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but since we've been talking about this crap for half an hour, how about we spend some time talking about our topic?
No.
It's a hard no.
Yeah.
So
let's talk more about our sleeping in and the plans that we didn't actually accomplish today. That's entertainment right there.
It does seem like we did neither one of us got anything done that we needed to get done today.
No. I did. Like I said, I didn't do shit.
Yeah, I sat around, listened to some records, and argued with people on Facebook.
Yeah, and I just watched YouTube videos and slept.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of YouTube. Which is funny because.
Well, it was
because we have a YouTube channel, but
right. I was watching.
Actually, we have 2 YouTube channels.
I was watching 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown. It's a British quiz show that I can't watch any other way other than YouTube.
Yeah.
So, but I was watching like back at a lot, old episodes of it from like 5 years ago.
So we're like, 4 months from election? 3.5 months?
August, October, November, December. No, 3 months. 3 months.
Did you say December?
Yeah, I threw December in there. I got lost in the.
You're thinking the end of the year.
Yeah,
so.
well, it is kind of the end of the year. It's the end of a long 4 years, actually. Hopefully,
a little over 3 months.
Yeah.
So with all this kind of COVID stuff going on, it kind of made me think. With the election right around the corner, most states are trying to figure out kind of what is the best way kind of to handle the voting process. And the thing I was kind of thinking of is, well, obviously if you look at polling data, if you look at elections for the past 30 plus years, the way it kind of goes is the fewer the votes are, the fewer the people that vote, the more likely it is for a Republican to win.
Mm-hmm.
So could COVID-19 somehow suppress the vote enough to cost the Democrats not only the White House, but the House or the Senate?
I would say no. If it was any other president that was any other incumbent, yes, the answer would be yes. Because
you'd be more likely to say yes. They could,
yeah, if it was a different incumbent. But I think there's enough people who, at least I'm hoping, enough people that see the true consequences of not voting in this election.
Yeah, because I guess if you look at most major polls or most major polling companies or whatever they are, their polling is really showing that Democrats have a strong chance of not only winning the White House, but to win the Senate and retain the House.
Which is actually necessary, wholly necessary right now to fix some things that have been screwed up in the last few years.
Yeah.
Not to mention managing the situation that we're in.
Exactly, absolutely. But, are they doing enough to kind of make sure that voter turnout is as large as possible? Because I know, if you look at the way Michigan has approached this, we kind of set ourselves up for it to, I think, go in the Democrats' favor as far as getting out the vote. Mm-hmm. Because was it the midterm? Was it 2016 or 2018?
2018 was the midterm.
I know what the midterm was, dummy. I was trying to say, I was trying to remember if it was the 2016 election. I think it was a 2018 midterm election where the state of Michigan passed no questions asked absentee voting. Right? It was It was the same election where I think it was the midterms in 2018 that we passed that. Well, no. What election was it when marijuana is legalized? Was it 2018? Was 2018? Okay, so it was the midterm. So in 2018, the state of Michigan passed an amendment that anyone could vote absentee. No questions asked. Mm-hmm. You could just get a ballot and mail it in. Right. So we kind of set ourselves up to be able to do this kind of vote by mail kind of thing. Whereas a lot of other states are still trying to fight for that.
Right.
So, but at least in Michigan, I think we've kind of said, I've done my August ballot already and taken that in. I just take it. There's a box when you walk into the Dundee Township building here. There's a box set up, and you walk in, just drop your ballot in. That's it.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's the best way to kind of go about it, or I don't know. What are your thoughts on it, Ian?
Well, I think for any of the areas that are having issues fighting to get mail-in ballots okayed, maybe they should find a way to compromise and say, okay, if you're not going to allow mail-in ballots, start opening the polls earlier, meaning 2 to 3 weeks earlier.
Yeah. To allow early voting,
and you don't have to do it every day, but 2 or 3 days a week for 3 to 4 weeks leading up to the
including
election.
a couple of weekends, probably.
Right, exactly. Just Saturdays, I think, would be safe.
Yeah,
or just Sundays, but you got the Bible Belt to deal with. They wouldn't go for the voting on Sunday.
So there's actually a thing they call souls to the polls that they used to do in the South,
right.
which was.
But that's on a Tuesday.
Well, yeah.
They'd much rather you be in church on Sunday than at the polls.
I'm just saying though, even if the polls were open, if it was open after church, I don't think it would ever have.
And quite honestly, I don't think I'd feel comfortable with a bunch of people being. Well, I mean, it's going to happen anyway, but I don't want preachers getting up on a bus with a bunch of people driving to the polls and having all that free time to tell them who they should be voting for when they're not being when they're not paying taxes and earning that right.
But here's the thing, though, with the whole souls to the polls, that was a tactic to get out the Democratic vote.
Right.
So you still have a problem with it?
No, I don't have a problem.
Okay.
No, yes, I do. Yes, I do. But my point is
because I'm just saying this. That it's been a way to get.
Let me just put it this way:
minority votes.
I get it. No, I get it.
Voting booth.
My objection to it is that I don't like religious organizations or people with religious affiliations using their affiliation to dictate what people should be voting for. However, my desire to get as many people to vote, regardless of who they're voting for, outweighs my result or my problem with that.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, I would much rather have people voting. I don't care.
I would agree
what
with you
they're voting
this
for.
way. I have no problem with the pastor saying, "Hey, let's all meet up at the church. We're gonna have a quick service, and then we're all gonna go to the voting booth." No problem with that.
Right.
My problem is, hey, we're all gonna go to the voting booth, and I want you all to vote for candidate X.
Right. Which they're doing anyway.
I think that there's probably fewer people now that are doing that than I would say.
I'd say it's probably more now.
I would
say
no.
Because the churches are getting away with a lot. They're getting. They're getting the billions of dollars they've gotten from the relief fund that they shouldn't have gotten because they don't fucking pay taxes.
I would say in the 70s, 80s, 90s, there was probably a lot more.
Oh, I think you're being naive. I think that it's
no,
It's not worse now. Just in the last 4 years.
And what I'm saying is, I'm saying that it was more prevalent. Not necessarily that there were more people doing it.
Right.
Is that there was a higher percentage of the pastors that were doing it at that time.
Because no one was watching then.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Fair enough.
Because I will say that.
But there's a lot of them doing it now because they think they can just get away with it.
I will say that over the past decade, I've been to quite a few churches. And off the top of my head, I can't think of a single one of them where it's been like that.
Right.
Because, like you said, there is more eyes. There is less tolerance of that in a lot of more progressive church settings, which is obviously what I'm going to.
Right.
I'm not going to your
Southern
Baptist churches or anything like that, where a lot of that's going on. And a lot of that, and like I said before, a lot of that, like Southern Baptist stuff, there's a good chunk of those that are saying, hey, that will be saying, hey, Joe Biden's the candidate to go vote for. There's a percentage of that that's going to be
maybe.
And I will say this as a Democratic supporter, as a Joe Biden supporter, I'm not in favor of that either.
Right? No, I'm not either. The churches have no right to be dictating anything.
No,
as far as politics go. But them taking elderly people who don't have rides on Tuesdays to that I have no problem with. It's the proselytizing and
the politicizing of it.
Politicizing of it. That's the only problem I have with it. Because like I said, no matter what problem I have with that, it's always going to be overshadowed. That problem is going to be overshadowed by the idea that we don't have enough people voting.
Yeah.
And the more people voting, the better, period.
But the whole thing with people not voting, that's been an issue for a long, long time.
Oh, of course it has, yeah.
On a good year, we have, 35 to 40% of the available voters voting?
I'd say, no, because it was like 40-some% in 2016, and a lot of people said
it must have been low 40s then.
It was, but it was still in the 40s.
Okay,
and that was considered super low because it
was
no. We had like 60% turnout in 2008.
No, we did not.
Yeah, we did.
No, I'm talking of the available voters. I want to say that number has never been higher than 50%.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that. I want to say that in 2016, I want to say the number was less than 40%.
I thought it was. Oh, maybe it was 40% didn't show up. No, that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, I want to say that I think it was 2012 it was either 2008 or 2012 when we had, a large Democratic voting bloc. So it must have been 2008. I want to say that number was like 40, low to mid 40s of the available voters voting.
Let's see, voter turnout for
For what?
I'm looking at 2016.
Okay, let's just look at 2016.
If it says 58% turned out in 2016.
58% of what?
The eligible voters.
Okay. So maybe that ended up being,
and that's according to PBS
so
NewsHour.
maybe I'm opposite then. Maybe I'm thinking 40% of all people in the U.S.
Oh yeah, because there's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people that can't vote
or aren't registered to vote.
Correct.
It's still a small percentage for a country that, in modern times, basically invented the vote.
That number. Look, I mean, that number should never be below 75% to 80%.
That would be my recommendation.
If I think the country would be a much different place if 75 to 80% of the people vote.
Oh, of course it would, because we wouldn't have any Republicans in office.
That's not necessarily true.
No, we'd have a few, but not enough to really cause any fucking problems. They'd just be figureheads for their party.
Yeah, it's so. If you kind of look at polling for the last 30 plus years, a majority of the country, I would say more and more of the country, is aligning itself with the Democratic Party.
And at least on social issues.
Well, on everything, really, across the board. Because if you think about it, if you look at Democrats versus Republicans, Democrats, there's generally 3 to 5% more Democrats than Republicans. And like we were talking at the beginning of the show, small percentage can equal a large number of people.
Right.
And what the majority of the country is a majority, I want to say 40-some% aligns itself or calls itself an independent, right? And that's why they always say that the independent vote is generally what decides an election. But if you look at the independent vote, if you look at Gallup just released some polls not too long ago that talked specifically to this, is if you take that roughly 40% of independents, a majority of them call themselves independent, but align themselves with either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party
on the vast majority
on
of
the vast
issues.
majority of issues. And even in that, I want to say there was 10%. The Democrats had a 10% edge on Republicans in those independents, and that there's really only about 7% of those independents that are really truly independent and really don't align themselves with one party or the other.
Right.
And that's kind of how polarized the country has become. And that's why I said there's really no independents left. You got that very small sliver, and a majority of the voters out there are either Democrat or lean Democrat independent.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying, the more people you get out and vote, the less the likelihood there is of a second Trump term.
Right. Well, that's obvious, because that's the vast majority of people who didn't show up in 2016. They didn't show up as a result of I don't think it's kind of a combination of things. They actually didn't think Trump would win, and they didn't want to give their vote to Hillary.
Yeah.
So they figured, well, if she's going to win anyway, I don't have to vote for her. I don't have to show up because I don't want him to win either.
Or is that lesser than two evils?
Right.
I'll vote for Trump because he's not as untrustworthy. Oops, I'm sorry. That was a big noise. He's not as untrustworthy as Hillary Clinton,
which has been proven to be the biggest falsehood ever.
Absolutely. Yes. But you know what? It was a great ploy by the Republican Party to get a vast majority of their voting bloc to believe that, because they came out, in droves to vote against her because of Benghazi and the emails and everything else. That was complete bullshit, smokescreen.
Yeah. But
they bought into a hook, line, singer.
Yeah. Well, but the sad thing is all those people are still buying into all the lies. The benefit is
they're the anti-mask people now.
Yeah. Anti-mask, COVID's a conspiracy, all that stuff, yeah.
A vast left-wing conspiracy.
Whatever. Whatever.
So I guess kind of I'll kind of wrap it up like this. Has the result, because you look at all these polling, and has the result of the 2016 election swayed the public's trust in polling data? Because you look at all these polls, they're saying that Biden's way ahead. I'm talking 10 plus percent in a majority of the polls out there. Mm-hmm. Even
some of the swing states he is.
And some of even the conservative polls have,
I want to say, like, didn't they have
above the margin of error?
Right, like 4%, 3 or 4% in Alabama, wasn't it?
I don't believe that.
Well, I'm asking because I swore I saw that, but I'm not 100% sure now.
I have not seen that.
So, he was up in Alabama. I don't know what the percentage was, and I don't know if it was above the margin of error. But I know he was up in several polls in Alabama.
That would surprise me. But I'm talking like national polls, like Wall Street Journal and things like that. Things that are generally align themselves more with conservative branding have Biden in the lead.
Or maybe it was Georgia. Georgia,
because I haven't seen any poll come out of Alabama that has. Because
now I'm thinking about it, I know Trump's ahead
last time
by a small amount in like Mississippi and Florida, I think.
Last time I saw a poll out of Alabama, Trump was leading by 4 to 6%.
Okay, maybe it wasn't Alabama then. Now I'm thinking about it, but anyway,
come on,
do your own homework. Don't listen to me.
Alabama would almost rather elect a pedophile over a Democrat.
That's true. That is true. I forgot about that.
So that's gonna be tough
sell.
Yeah, a tough sell in Alabama for a Democrat.
At least Joe Biden's not a pedophile. So.
That's true. Well, they claim he is.
Oh, because he hugs people?
Because he hugs people.
Because he's touchy-feely with everybody, including men?
Yeah, I know.
He's constantly hugging and touching people. I've known lots of people like that.
You remember, they said that Barack Obama was a homosexual, too, in a lot of those attack ads. And that Michelle Obama was really a man. And
yeah, that's true.
So, I don't know.
I want Michelle Obama to be president.
I think she'd be a good running mate.
Well, this is how I explained it to my mother. I said, look, if Michelle Obama was willing to do it, because she's not.
She's not.
Because I think if she was, she would already be not.
Actually, we should know here pretty soon.
Pretty soon, yeah. Well, August is when they usually do the convention. So
I thought he said we'd know before August 3rd. I thought is what he said.
Maybe, but this is what happens if he picks Michelle. He guarantees 8 years for himself. And then, theoretically, we could guarantee another 8 for her.
Yeah, probably.
So we could actually have 16 years of Democratic control of the White House if Michelle was willing to run with him. But I know she's not, and I get it, because I think it put a strain on the family, their daughters, that she saw what it did to Barack because of the shit he had to deal with.
I don't know.
The blatant racism right in the middle of the fucking State of the Union speeches.
I know. But the kind of the thing I also look at it is, what, their daughters
are old enough.
They're not kids anymore.
No, but what I'm saying is that it took a toll, and she just probably didn't want to do it.
Maybe.
I mean, she's qualified. She's more than qualified.
I think so.
She's a lawyer. She knows the law. Like I said, she's more than qualified.
President Obama was a constitutional attorney, and they still attacked him for not knowing the Constitution. So,
well, they know they attacked him for knowing the Constitution too well.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Well, that's not the way they sold it.
That's because that's what it is. When you actually understand what the Constitution's saying, it doesn't mean what they think it means.
Yes, exactly. It I don't know. It's going to be an interesting couple of months. The lead up, because you know what
it is. But I
would say that 4 years ago. I keep saying this. 4 years ago, we were in a similar situation.
Yeah, Hillary was up in all the polls.
July, August, she was up ahead. She wasn't, 10 to 15% up.
No,
but she was definitely.
Nobody believed Trump was going to win.
No. Well, I kept saying it was going to be close.
I did too. I never for a minute thought he didn't have a chance to win.
The closer it got to the election, inside 2 weeks before that election. I kept saying I was talking to the guy I was actually arguing with today. That I was talking to him prior to the election. I kept saying it's going to be a razor thin margin.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really close race. I just hoped that Hillary would pull it
edge
out.
Yeah.
And I was and she didn't. And I I don't know how much that Comey played into it or anything else. I think there was.
I think a lot of people just stayed home. I don't think it was any one thing. I think
it was a culmination of.
If you had to pick one
factors.
thing, I think it was the fact that too many people just didn't show up.
Yeah.
That would have voted for her. Or would have voted Democrat. That would have voted Democrat.
We know that, because if you look at the 2012 and 2008 election data, which there's nothing subjective there. It's black and white data.
Right.
Donald Trump got roughly as many votes as Romney and McCain.
Right.
In 2008 and 2012, within several percentage of, I shouldn't say percentage, within a small sliver of votes.
Right.
They were all in the same neighborhood.
Right.
Hillary got a lot less votes
than Barack
Obama did in 2012 and 2008. Because you can't really look at the 2008 numbers. Democrats are going to have a hard time matching those kind of numbers.
Unless Michelle was on the ballot with
exactly.
You put her on the ballot, I think you'd have a landslide.
I think Biden is going to get close to the 2012 Barack Obama numbers, and that's going to be enough to win him the White House.
Yeah, well, let's hope. It's just a matter of, like you said, and we've both said, we got to get out and vote.
Absolutely.
Vote by mail, vote in person. It doesn't matter. Just fucking vote.
Just get out there and vote. That's it. But
I don't even care if your pastor is taking you there. Just go.
But I don't know, man. Anything else you want to add to it? It's going to be interesting.
No.
And it's going to be interesting to see how individual states go about ensuring the safety of voters.
Right.
Because in Michigan, as of time of recording, they've already said that you're not required to wear a mask to vote in November. So how much?
Well, they can't. That's only because they can't turn you away.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's not that they want you to wear a mask. They would try to make it mandatory, but the problem is if someone shows up without a mask and they turn them away, they're suppressing the vote.
So that's what I'm trying to say is, if you're, someone in your 60s, 70s that has voted Democrat your whole life,
and you're afraid,
and
vote by mail.
Well, that's what I'm saying though, is if you're afraid, maybe they don't trust voting by mail. Yeah. They spent their whole life voting in person. And they could be the same kind of person that doesn't believe in credit cards or the internet or anything else, online banking, anything else in the 21st century. Right. So those kind of people are going to be more afraid to risk their health and go stand in line for X amount of time to vote.
Well, let me ask you this, because your dad is a high susceptible person. Did he vote in person in the last election?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
My dad. I don't think my parents would ever vote by mail.
Okay, because my dad is not as susceptible as yours, but has his own health issues, and him and my stepmom have voted by mail since 2016.
Oh yeah,
I believe, and maybe even beyond that, but I'm pretty sure since 2016. But in every election, they voted by mail, and they don't have any problem with it. Yeah. It's been fine for them. So
I don't have any problem with it either. I mean,
for me, it's just it's missing out on that opportunity to,
to what?
No,
because you do the exact same thing.
I know, but it's like
it's the exact same ballot.
It's just this idea of going to the polls. It's that old-fashioned idea for me. Yeah. But as far as the health of myself and those around me, that's a different story. I mean, it's not like I'm putting this nostalgic idea above the safety of others, but that's what I feel I'm losing. It's not that I don't trust the mail-in. I like going to the polls. I like being there in person. I like sliding my ballot into the thing.
I get it. But you want to know something? Like I said, I already done my ballot for.
I haven't.
For
so
August.
I'm going to vote.
It's the exact same process. It's the exact same ballot. You put it inside this little envelope thing with the little tab sticking out of the top, and they literally just open up your envelope and feed it in the machine. That's all they do.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're not missing out on anything.
Right. Well, I didn't do the mail.
It's just
there
is a percentage of people out there that are not going to trust the people at the voting station actually feeding their.
Well,
their
I can't. I
ballots
can't even go to the gas station without having seen people without masks. So
in.
but I'm not a high risk person, and I
No,
wear
no,
my
no.
mask.
I'm saying
so-
that there's people out there like Mandy doesn't trust them to actually count her ballot.
her mail-in ballot.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a part of me that doesn't, but you just gotta. There's a part of me that doesn't even trust when I slide it into the machine that the machine's gonna read it.
Yeah.
You have to kind of take it on faith. As much as I hate doing stuff like that,
But
when you're in person or whatever, I'm gonna. The August election, I have to vote in person. I haven't signed up to do mail-in. I haven't filled out my mail-in thing yet.
you do it right online, right?
Oh no!
You go to Michigan. Michigan.
But isn't there a deadline to do it? And
I don't know. You'd have to look, but it's
because we're talking. It's 2 weeks away. It's 2 weeks from Tuesday, so
Yeah.
not even. It's a week from Tuesday.
But
Yeah,
you
it's a week from Tuesday.
you can sign up online and do just the November election.
Right.
Well,
that's what I'm probably going to do.
Because I had the option of doing August or November or both.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but as far as the August, I'm going to go in person because I go early in the morning. I've never been in a crowd of more than 10 people voting where I vote because I go right after work. Yeah, and I'm literally there
when the polls open.
Yeah, half hour after the polls open.
Exactly.
So
and that's what Mandy said too, because in our area the voting line is never very long.
Right.
Because we live in a rural area, so of course there's not a lot of minority voters in my area. So why would they want to suppress the vote?
Right. Exactly. Well, to be fair,
it's when you go to Detroit and those areas where
look at the turnout. Your little town here had a Black Lives Matter rally, and
we had 200 people there.
We had a lot of people. I mean, that's for a predominantly white area, and a rural area at that. I'd say the turnout was really positive. So
absolutely.
Don't shit on your little town too much.
I try not to.
It is still full of Republican racist people because we saw them drive by.
But you know what? You want to know something? A couple elections ago, we elected a Democratic mayor with a Hispanic last name. So.
So
she got voted out of office the very next election.
Time.
But yeah.
But hey, it's a progress of a sort.
It's a start. But that's all I got, man. Anything else to add? No. Just go out and vote.
Just go out and vote, and don't touch yourself inappropriately because it makes Jesus cry.
It makes you go blind.
We've learned those lessons today.
And then if you do, don't lick your hands afterwards.
Or do. I don't remember. See, I'm going to have to lick my hands every time just to make sure I'm doing it right.
Lick your fingers clean.
Yes, exactly.
On that note, any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@ligpodcast.us. We're on Twitter at LIG Podcast. We're on Facebook if you want to check us out on there. Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, just about everywhere else. Yep. That's all I got, man.
All I got.
Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Bye.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you some cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.
Oh shit. Watch out, you the god, Billy. Oh shit. Right now, and I'm smiling in your face, bitch. With a gold smile, you should probably make placement. To your eye, niggas sick as fuck. Standing with niggas who down for that party. Who down for some bitches who showing their bodies. Swear to God, nigga, this Molly got me up and rolling. These bodies of water. Bring that shit in bottles. We mosh at the party. They hate when we stylin'.